Hi guys. So today is story time.
Story time.
Story time.
Oh gosh. I'll try and do it.
Story time.
Story time.
Okay. So I know we've mentioned it. Well, I've mentioned it in a previous video when we were talking about the insomnia. And I mentioned briefly that I had a brain infection, and this is going to be our story time about my brain infection, and how that come about. I was feeling quite unwell for a while. At this stage I am on, I believe I was on the highest dose of the medication that they had me on. And I remember just feeling very unwell, quite run down, and I was going in for, because I was having really bad pain in my ear, I should say, my ear.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And I went into the I went to the GP, sorry, because obviously this earache was just getting worse and worse and more intense. And he kind of looked at me, was like asking what the other symptoms were or what else was going on, and the fact that I hadn't eaten, I wasn't eating, I was just feeling extra tired, really unwell, and I was just feeling really, really low. And the GP, actually, he, from the symptoms and from him looking at me, actually called the ambulance to come and get me from the actual GPs, yeah, from the actual doctors,
which was nice.
Well, it showed the severity of how bad things were. Yeah, it was really nice of him actually. And so things just kind of went from there really, and I can't lie, it kind of became a blur because things just intensified and rapidly got worse.
When was this? I'm a bit confused now. Because now, this was when you were in St. Thomas's.
But this is before I got to St. Thomas's.
Oh. I remember visiting you in St. Thomas's.
So, I think they gave me antibiotics or something like that, but things just weren't working. And I was just increasingly getting worse at home, and things were getting worse and worse at home. And then remember, an ambulance had to come and pick me up from here.
Yeah, I remember that you're sitting on the sofa, lying down on the sofa. I was there like peeking in, trying not to cry.
Yeah. And then they, because our local hospital is obviously, ambulances have to take you to your local, because obviously if it's an emergency, it's the one that's closest to you. My hospital that I go to for the lupus is in the middle of, is in like central London, and it's obviously a greater distance away. But God had it that they were able to actually, there was like a back and forth. You know, we kind of, I think my family asked and explained to them, either way, I'm going to end up getting transported over to St. Thomas, chances are, and, you know, things are getting worse. So they took me straight to St. Thomas, and then things just kept getting worse. My head was hurting more and more. And I remember any noise that was around me was just really painful. It's like having an intense migraine. All the light that was around me was just too intense and too painful. Noise around me was really, really painful.
Because the eyes are connected to the brain.
I remember going into, they put me into a MRI because they obviously knew that they didn't know, well, I don't know, maybe they didn't, I don't know, but because obviously it was my head that I was complaining about, they put me into an MRI scan to have an MRI. And if anyone's been in an MRI, you know that it makes those noises. Do you remember it makes those noises and things? Yeah. And then they'll put like the earbuds in and the headphones to distract, so that, you know, the noises aren't too loud in your ear. The thing is, my head was in so much pain, even with those on, it still felt like there were drills going into my skull. I just couldn't take the noise. It was so intensely painful.
Did you have a buzzer?
See, that's the thing. I couldn't understand what was going on because at this time I was confused as well. I wasn't conscious completely. I remember those little things because I just remember the pain, and I remember the pain and the noise. But I don't think they put anything. I remember them saying, "Kim, you have to stay still. You have to stay still." But I couldn't, because I was just thinking, why don't you understand? Like, I'm in so much pain, and I just kept trying to cover my ears, which is why I had to keep moving my head, because it was just so painful.
Oh, gosh.
So yeah, and that's I don't really remember what happened from there onwards, from there beyond. Like, I know they obviously took me out eventually, and then things just went, and then I just don't remember what happened. Did Nanny and Grandpa tell you anything when I first got taken into hospital?
No. Well, I can't really remember. But the moments that I remember is when I came to see you, and when you got taken. Yeah. But when they did take you out of the house, we just started praying, and yeah.
So a little while after, when I finally came to, like, I remember just like when I finally woke up, and these nurses, every time, like, nurses would come in, doctors would come in, and they'd always ask, they'd be like, Kim, okay, so what day is it? How long have you been here? What month are we in? And I'll answer these questions, but they'll have this look on their face, like, I'm like, and then they'll be like, okay, and then they'll leave, and then I'll get asked that question again, and I was getting frustrated because I'm like, why are these people asking me the same question over and over again? And they kept looking at me like I'm answering the question, but they're looking at me like I'm, like, I don't know, like the answer's not marrying up. It was weird. So when Grandpa came and visited me, I said, Dad, like, I think the main question that kept bugging me, because one nurse would ask, like, so how long have you been here? How long have you been here? And I'll tell her, like, I've been here for a couple of days. She's like, okay. So my dad had come to visit, and I asked Grandpa, and I was like, Dad, how long have I been here? Because I keep they keep asking me the same question over and over again. I've been here for a couple of days, isn't it? Like probably like a week. And Grandpa said, and he just looked at me. He's like, no, baby, you've been here for 5 weeks already. And I just didn't know. I didn't know any of that. And the reason why they were obviously asking those questions, because they wanted to know what I had known or what was still retained in my brain, because during those 5 weeks I learnt to find out that I had to be in ICU for a period of time. My brain had, they had now come to a diagnosis, a slight diagnosis, that there's an infection in my brain, and that's what's happening. That's why right now things are a bit messed up. I had a seizure, a very bad seizure, which led to me being in ICU. The part of my brain that controlled the short-term memory, I believe, was damaged, so my memory was wiped. And I had through that as well, I had a mini stroke, which completely, my left side, my left arm and my left leg, left side, they just weren't moving. They just could not move. They didn't move. So me waking up to these questions, thinking I've only been there for a couple of days, not really taking into knowing that my mouth was a bit sore, my tongue was sore. I had a big hole in the side of my tongue, and that's because I ended up biting my tongue, which created this huge hole. I'm assuming that was during the seizure. So me waking up to, not only waking up to these random questions which kept getting asked and I didn't understand why. I also couldn't use my left arm or my left leg. They just weren't moving. And my mouth was just my tongue was just super sore. And it's just like, so it's almost like going to bed and waking up almost like a completely different person. Not understanding what's going on, feeling this pain, not being able to use half your body, and just not getting why all of this is happening. And that was sort of like the beginning of me cognitively slightly understanding what was happening slightly. So from then on, they still weren't 100% sure what the cause of the infection was. So now I was awake, they kind of were able to continue more testing. And the testing just continued. I remember the doctor coming in and just kind of looking at me and being like, sorry Kim, you're gonna be with us for quite some time. And that was just a little bit like, that was scary. That was just, disheartening, because the fact that they just didn't know what was going on, but they knew there was something serious happening. They explained to me that, my memory, and they gave me the time period of where I would have forgotten. So it was roughly, if I remember, the doctor was like, so between now and like probably what happened within the last few months to a year, there's chances are like I will not remember that period. And that became clearer as time went on. I had to have lumbar puncture, where they had to check the fluid on the spine, which shows, that's what gave them the indication. That's what actually gave them the confirmation that there is a infection, on the brain, because they said the fluid that they had got was very foggy, so they could see that there was obviously an infection going on in my brain. With the lumbar punctures, you're supposed to have them quite you can't have them too close together. I believe it's like you have to have it like at least like a couple of weeks apart, and on this occasion I think they gave me two procedures a little bit too close together, so they took too much liquid, fluid I should say, that surrounds the brain, and which then made my brain sink in my skull, which then intensified the headaches. I would have like these mini type of seizure-y kind of episodes. The brain infection, I remember a nurse saying, because I think she said she's actually seen a patient like this before, had a patient like this before, or worked with a patient who's kind of had a brain infection that they think that I have. And she was like, Kim, I'll be honest, it's going to get worse before it gets better, but you know, I can see you're strong, you hang on in there. I didn't realise how much worse. I feel like when she said that, I really thought, okay, these headaches are just going to get like quite even, which they were bad, but I thought, okay, maybe the headaches are just going to get even worse. But yeah, she meant the whole thing. I didn't realise how bad that worst period was going to get. My memory was, it felt like it was getting worse. Like if you came in and said good morning, by the time you turned around and I saw you leave, so the camera cut out. So I was up to, where was I up to? My memory got so bad that if you were to walk in and say good morning, literally by the time you came out, I wouldn't have even remembered what you said. I would have just seen the back of your head leaving the room and got confused as to why didn't you say hello, or why didn't you come in. It was that bad. My memory was that bad. I couldn't take any light. The blinds had to be down completely. As time progressed, my cognitive function was getting worse. The way the doctors explained to me, the neurologist explained, was, you know, your brain has electrodes, it's almost like electric currents, and these currents are supposed to connect, and when they connect, that's when it brings the information. The problem is my brain wasn't connecting. The currents weren't connecting, so they were like almost zigzagging, so nothing was really, my brain just wasn't working. I couldn't understand what people were saying to me. People were talking to me, I couldn't understand. I couldn't remember anything. Reading, I couldn't read because the words just looked like blur, and it was just like black on white. That's what it looked like. I couldn't watch anything because again I couldn't understand what was on the TV, and movement on the TV was just like blurs of colour, so it didn't make sense to me. I couldn't write. My hands were shaking so much. I couldn't even hold a pencil to write or anything like that. I basically became like almost like a baby again. Yeah. I still wasn't eating. I remember the first time I got strength enough to walk to the bathroom by myself, because the whole time like nurses kind of had to help, because obviously by this time spending so much time in bed, obviously in ICU, not eating, muscle wastage was extreme. Like it was just literally bone and skin. When I'd lift my legs up, you can just see like my actual femur. You could actually see the femur bone. And when I remember going to the bathroom and looking at the mirror, and I just genuinely didn't even recognize myself, and I just saw me body shape completely different, bruises, a hole in my tongue, and I just remember saying, what's happened to you now? And I just had no idea. At all. Yeah.
This is too sad.
What do you remember Mummy being in hospital?
What I remember is coming to see you like every other week after school. And
Wasn't it every week?
no, that was
Okay.
Grandpa.
Well, Grandpa pretty much came every other day, if not every day. I'm sure you came like every week after school on a Friday.
All that, probably.
Well, I know, my memory's gone.
But yeah, you did look different. Yeah, probably the most thing. But I always thought that you would forget me because of the brain infection, and that you would, because you forgot so much things, I thought you would forget me.
I remember. I remember there was one, you saying that, I remember the one day where it was a really bad day, and I think I kept having those like mini seizure-y, epileptic fit kind of things where I just kind of, and I remember Grandpa kind of calling saying that he's gonna come and visit and bring you, and I was getting really scared because I was like, I don't want you to see me like that. And I remember being so worried, but then the evening you came, and I don't know if you remember this, and I remember this evening, I remember this visit, and I said to you, you're my medicine, because Mummy was having such a bad day. All day it was a really bad day, and now you're here, I'm feeling better. And the whole time you were there, we were just playing, because I didn't have any, my body didn't have a breakdown, my head, it was just like, you were my medicine. And I felt like I was just in a good place because you were there. And I remember when you told me that you were worried that I'd forget you. Do you remember what I said to you? I basically said, no matter what happens, however bad this thing can get, Mummy could never forget you. Ever. You were so brave for going through all of that. Like, it was like he was still going to school. Obviously, she was still going to school. As normal. The school had no idea what she was going through. Bear in mind, the year prior, she had come out of hospital herself. So she's recently diagnosed with lupus. She's just getting back to herself. And then her mummy goes into hospital for basically the same 7-month stretch that she was in hospital for. And she was still going to school. And nobody around her, apart from her family, were the wiser of what this little girl was going through. Oh, you were such a strong little girl. You were so strong. So as time went on, I think they finally felt that they had a diagnosis of things. So they started treating me for something called toxoplasmosis. And the amount of medication that I literally was taking every single day, they had to continually give me brain scans and CT scans, and it was constant. Bloods literally every day. My skin was numb. I was numb to it after a while. And I think I had experienced so much pain previously. Them juking me like a pincushion was nothing. The amount of medication, so you know you have the standard, the large pill, little pill cup that you'll get in hospitals that are probably like that big. I remember every morning that would be full to the brim of pills. Every evening it will be full to the brim of pills, and in the afternoon it will be halfway full. And I had to take that every single day. And I remember one doctor in particular saying, oh my goodness, how are you dealing with all this medication? I'm surprised you're not rattling when you're walking. And for me, unfortunately at that time, again, I was so numb and in so much pain, it wasn't something I found very funny. Normally, I'm the one making those type of jokes about me. But at that stage, it wasn't funny because it felt like I was being tortured. I've been through a lot with my body and with the illness, and I've previously, when I was 15, I went through a lot as well, but by far the brain infection and that whole ordeal has been by far the worst thing I have ever experienced for myself. I literally lost me. I didn't know. I just lost me. And I was hurting that I wasn't able to be my baby's mummy as I should be, and I couldn't understand basic things. So things just weren't clear, and it was almost like things were continuing to almost deteriorate. That's what it felt like. I remember going again. I went to the bathroom, and when I got up to the door of the bathroom, I remember looking over at the bed, and I didn't know how to get back to the bed. I walked to the bathroom, but I didn't remember that. And I completely forgot how. My mind would not tell my legs. I didn't know how to walk. I didn't know how to walk. I remember standing there and like just figure, I'm like, because I know before the nurses were there like holding me, but on this occasion I was by myself. I didn't have the nurses, and that's how bad my memory was. I genuinely didn't know how I was going to get back to the bed. I just remember standing there looking at the bed, and I didn't know the connection. I didn't know how I got from the bed to here and how I was going to get here to the bed. I just know I needed to get to the bed. And I just remember standing there, and it what felt like, I remember just standing and almost rocking, and like I don't know how, and I just kept rocking, and then it was like I was pushing my body, and while by me doing that, like it was just like God bless me to just move my legs and then just walk. And I can't even remember how I walked back. I just remember my leg moved and I got to the bed. So they moved me to another room because they wanted my room door open, but I kept closing my room door. So they ended up putting me in front of the nurse desk so that they could keep an eye on me. Which still didn't make sense to me. But then what happened is that room didn't have a bathroom in it, so I had to walk outside of the room to use the bathroom. And I remember going to the bathroom outside now, so I'm having to go outside onto the ward where there's obviously nurses and stuff walking back and forth. And I went to the bathroom, and as I approached it, a nurse came up to me and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you're still here." And I remember looking at her like, huh? I didn't know who this woman was. I did not know who she was. I didn't know who she was. And I remember getting so scared because I'm like, why are these strangers talking to me? And it was literally like a movie because she's talking to me like she knows me. Obviously she did. Obviously I later on found out that she was one of the first nurses who was looking after me at the very beginning before things escalated. But I didn't know who she was. And I remember as she's talking and I'm like pulling on the door to this bathroom because I'm like, I just want to get away from her because I don't understand why she's talking to me like she knows me. And I was just like, and I just remember feeling very anxious and scared, and I just went into the bathroom, closed the door, and I just remember bawling. I just remember crying because I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I was so confused. I just remember just being so overwhelmed. Things obviously got better, obviously, because, you know, I'm here, I'm talking. And yeah, they just showed that, you know, but it took a very long healing journey. So I had to go through brain training therapy type of thing. I had to go through memory sessions, neuropsychiatry to kind of help the brain function a bit better. I don't think that worked. Clearly, that didn't work. I've been left with, I think, seven or eight lesions on my brain. But the thing is with the brain is the parts that are damaged, the parts that are healthy or not damaged will adapt. So unfortunately, I'm not where I was at before it happened. But yeah, but so that's my story time. That's our story time. That shows there's many things that happened. So thanks guys, and we'll speak to you soon. Okay, bye.